They looked at litter and they looked at waste and they saw that as the same issue. You know, it's not, you know, two separate things. It's a feedback loop that we can create, that if we're going to take our waste management practices into the 21st century, we're going to invariably change our litter conditions in the city for the better. My name is Nick Esposito. I'm the Zero Waste and Litter Director for the City of Philadelphia. One huge challenge is just our consumer convenience culture, right? And that kind of spans across many different sectors, many different socioeconomic levels. This race to the bottom that we've created around producing goods, especially goods that are highly packaged with lots of plastic, things that are just meant for single use and then they're discarded, that is a huge, huge issue. And that's what I see from the waste side as one of our biggest threats, trying to keep up with the sheer volume. Since the 1960s until now, we're putting out 3 times the amount of waste curbside, and that's just going up and up every year exponentially right now. So trying to exist on that global scale and trying to run a city with all those different factors is a huge challenge. On the litter side, there's a behavioral aspect to it, right? But I look at the behavior as the outcome that comes from many different factors of design, infrastructure, different laws, conditions, education levels. I mean, there's many different things that kind of are at play, and then that person who puts their trash out wrong at the curbside or litters on the ground, that's the outcome of that, right? It's not the actual factor that factored why that person did it. There's all these other things behind it. So this is an urban problem, a city problem throughout the world. Every city, I'm in all these different networks worldwide, nationally. I talk to my colleagues around the world and country, and everyone is dealing with these issues. So it's not unique to Philadelphia. I would say what sets Philadelphia apart that makes us really interesting is that we still have the conditions of so much commerce within our neighborhoods, like how big corner store culture is, how much is going on within it. We don't just have these nice and neat, a commercial corridor here and then a bunch of residential type areas with yards and, side yards where you can store trash, right? We're very dense. We have a lot of commerce that goes on in our neighborhoods, and that's going to lead to a lot of trash. Another thing that makes it really challenged with that density is that we don't have a really good infrastructure for how to have all of our residents using hard-lined containers that you're putting your trash in. So if you go to a lot of Philadelphia neighborhoods on trash day, a lot of them have just bags of trash that are there that the squirrels can get into and rip open. You've got people putting their recycling in Trader Joe's bags and kind of putting that out because they think they're being sustainable, but they're really not. And all of this loose trash that's going out curbside is getting knocked over, it's getting blown around, and I would venture to say probably 60% of the litter you see in Philadelphia just comes from trash not being put out correctly curbside. So how do we do that? People say, well, just get everybody a hardline container with a lid, like one of those toters, and it's easier said than done. What do you do for a place that doesn't have a side yard, is a 12-foot wide row house? Where are they going to store that? They're going to slug it through every day? So there's a lot of challenges to that. Also, how do we pick those up, right? That, we have really small streets, so you can only get certain trucks down there to pick it up. It's something that we can figure out, and we are actively working to, but that hasn't been something that's really been figured out in the past, and it's led to what I would say is the conditions that we're in right now.
A lot of the people we've talked to, especially older people, say that when they were younger, they didn't have as much litter and trash on the streets. And so that makes you think, well, what changed in the past 30, 40 years? And now we see that the plastics industry has really exploded. My name is Whyte, and I'm the project coordinator for Trash Academy here at Mural Arts. So basically, I think the plastic and trash crisis comes from the weaknesses within our economic system where businesses are making money, obviously, that's just not a bad thing, but they externalize the cost of all the trash. So if you create a product, you don't have to think about the disposal of the product. All you're concerned with is manufacturing the product and selling it, and then whatever happens to the byproduct is not really anybody's business. Nobody really takes that into account, except for maybe nuclear waste. Besides that, it's hard to think of any kind of product where it's built into the system to take care of the waste. So with plastics, you go to the store, you see the aisles full of products, but what happens to those products when people are finished using them? That's not really factored in. And a lot of this stuff just ends up in the ocean, ends up on our streets. So that's one reason why we are talking about this issue here at Trash Academy. Trash does affect your health. So for example, plastics will break down into little tiny microparticles, microplastics, and people can breathe this in. Many people already have microplastics in our bodies already because of the fact that they're in the ocean, they're in the soil, they're in the air, they're in the water. And so the more this plastic is put into our environment, it's going to lead to things like more cancer, many things that we don't even really think of as being connected with trash, like the burning of trash. So as you may have heard here in Philadelphia, because of the litter backlog and the recycling backlog, now they're burning half of the trash that they are supposed to be recycling. And that contributes to air pollution, that contributes to global warming. So really, the trash issue is sort of like an environmental issue that is very accessible to people, and one that I think that we can use to talk about larger, more broader environmental issues. But people should care because, when the trash is just thrown away, it doesn't just go away. It goes somewhere, and it's going to affect our health. It's going to affect the health of animals that maybe eat the trash, like the whales that we see washing up with their stomachs full of plastic bags. I think people should care about that, So Trash Academy wants to work with all different types of people in the community. Students, we want to work with artists, environmental activists, we want to work with youth, and we want to bring people together and connect them with resources. We also want to inspire people to come up with their own solutions to the trash issue in their own specific neighborhood. So if there's a certain corner or a certain lot that needs to be cleaned up, we want to work with them to find a solution to cleaning up the area. We also want to educate people about trash. We want to complicate the issue because people think the trash issue is simple, but it's actually very complicated. So we want to educate people, but we want to do it in a way where it's not, it's not nagging, or it's not, finger wagging people and saying you're being dirty, you need to clean up your act. We want to actually tell people, hey, this is how you can do things differently. We want to use games and fun things to kind of engage with people and use trash and litter as sort of like a gateway to talking about other environmental issues.
I might not answer your question exactly. We said we are going to become experts at trash. I'm Shari Hersh, and I'm one of the people who started Trash Academy. We started in a vacant lot in South Philly, and it was 2015, and it was a bunch of community members, people from nonprofits, artists, a lot of artists, some activists, and basically the community said the biggest problem, their number one concern in South Philly, which was going through rapid gentrification and still is, was actually trash. In one of our first Trash Academies, we blocked out neighborhoods, and we each took a block, and we photographed our block. This was before the litter index. We didn't even know the litter index was coming down the pike. And we took photographs and tracked our block. And in that case, in South Philly, we found that most of the trash was fast food trash and the bags. It's our convenience. It's about buying something that's already packaged. And grab and go is interesting because I don't know much about it other than all the trash it produces and the litter and the recycling that's not being recycled or can't be recycled. But I'm guessing that there's a pretty much a better market for a grocery store to create a pre-made food and sell it to you, where you can just grab it and it's already made, versus their profit margin on fruits and vegetables or whatever. So I'm guessing that it's more complicated than what I see, which is just all the production of waste. So, and that's what the Trash Academy has taught me, is that like everything that looks simple and seems like a consumer problem is a much bigger problem, and you have to keep scratching at it to get how big it is, and then you have to research it, and we do all this participatory research, and we talk about it a lot, and we talk about what means something to us, and we find a way into it, and then we might create a game about it to teach people about it. Because we're trying to change everyone's consciousness, our own and everyone else's, about trash, and we're all learning together, and so we just keep going.
A big problem is that trash isn't sexy. If someone has an option of giving towards a nonprofit that takes oil off of baby penguins, you know, that's going to get the first crack at environmental funding. So litter kind of falls into cracks between environmental grants, tech grants, public health grants, but litter affects everything. I'm Dave Brindley, and I'm the founder of Not in Philly. I moved to West Philadelphia 10 years ago, and the house that we bought was at 50th Street, so it's 2 blocks downwind from a McDonald's, 2 blocks downwind from a commercial corridor, so we had all this litter just blow right up to our front steps. And I just hated the hopelessness that it conveyed to our kids and the neighborhood kids as they would play out front. They would just have this litter all around them. And my solution was at the end of the day, about once a week, I would go out with a grabber and pick up the trash on my block. And it would only take about 15 minutes. After doing this for a couple years, I began to think, well, could there be an easy way for citizens to sign up for their block? And I looked online, there wasn't anything there, and so I approached the civic tech community at Code for Philly. They ended up creating for me the first website in the country where citizens could sign up for their block. And we asked citizens to commit to going out once a week for 6 months. When we launched this program, I had no idea if anybody would sign up, but as soon as it launched, it just went viral throughout the city, and we've seen 1,300 citizens sign up. Our organization looks to see what is it that can empower citizens to address this problem in their own neighborhood. We don't believe that we are the silver bullet to solve all of Philadelphia's trash problems, but we just want to be one more tool in the city's arsenal. Here is a way that we can empower citizens in a very cost-effective way to combat this problem that they hate on their block.